All right, let's talk things all music now. And Anotidaishe Makunike, known as FakeAno, is a Zimbabwean artist that was raised in South Africa. FakeAno celebrated African identity from a youthful perspective in part 2 of his 2022 EP titled African Boy 2. The versatile artist prides himself in embodying tenets that make Africa special to Africans across the continent and the world. Well, to give us a taste of his music and some of the projects that he's currently working on, FakeAno is in the studio with us this morning. Ano, very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, take us through your music, when and how it all started for you.
I've been a lover of music since I was young. Grew up in the church, so I've always been playing music in the church. And as I got older, I realized that this is not just a gift, but also a passion that I want to pursue for the rest of my life. So as of 2019, I've officially been a solo artist, just working on my own with my record label, Blank Space Records. And today we're here now.
Just take us through the journey from playing in church and what really inspired you to, consider music on a full-time basis or on a professional basis.
Yeah, so, it's been a crazy journey, firstly, because when you're growing up, you never really exactly know what you want to become or who you want to become, especially if you want to, you have the pressures of wanting to become like a doctor, you want the pressures of becoming something else, And you get the situation where I always loved music, I always loved giving my time into music, and I always loved giving my space into music. And growing up, it became a choice to be like, okay, cool, you out here and you got all these gifts and talents, so what are you going to do with them? Are you going to keep them to yourself, or are you going to bring them out into the world? And now we're in a situation where I'm just wanting to give them to the world. Yeah.
I know the name Ano is a shortened version of your full name, Anotidaishe, but why FakeAno?
So, I always tell people like, I call myself FakeAno because, there's a real version, then there's a fake version. But essentially, I was logging onto Twitter and I was trying to sign up for an account, and I did not have the options of taking real Ano, so I settled for FakeAno. But that's the real story. What I tell people is that, most people are so real that they're actually fake, so I'm so real that I'm actually fake. And it's like a play on the words of being real and fake, essentially.
So you know what it is now. FakeAno became the real FakeAno.
Exactly, the real FakeAno. I think I need a project named that.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Now, talk to us about how your roots in Zimbabwe and having grown in South Africa helped shape your career.
It helped shape my career because my taste in music has become so wide. I have a wide range in taste of music, mainly because the culture and what South Africa represents is so different to Zimbabwe, at the same time also similar, so there's things that are connected that were similarities, but the differences that we did have, I used to choose those as like South African music has a lot of dance culture. It's a bit more upbeat, it's a bit more up-tempo. As Zimbabwe, you have Oliver Mtukudzi and everyone else who's a bit slow tempo, but they're also on guitars, so I use the two different cultures that I've grown up around to create one sound, which is basically Southern. We can say like I make Southern beats type of, and it's been an interesting journey to see how people have been receiving it. But essentially the idea is to then put together all the Southern different sounds and then create one sound that Southern Africa speaks about. Yeah.
Just listening to the opening track that we played, I just got a sense that there's a bit of, upbeat tempo, and there was a bit of, Afro-pop, Afro-fusion, whatever you may call it. But how would you describe the music that you create generally?
Yeah, I'd call it Afro-pop, I'd call it Afro-fusion. And if, African music, instead of just calling ourselves Afro beats, I feel like that's more Western African and it's more Upper African. So we're trying to create this genre called Saudi beats, Southern beats. I don't know, we'll work on the name later. But it's in that direction to be like, it's Afro beats, it's Afro pop, it's Afro fusion, but it's the Southern version as versus to being Western African or Eastern African.
Okay. And your music embodies, the tenets of, the basic principle rather of being an African. Why is that important to you? That's
super important to me because as an African in diaspora, not living in his home country, you learn to realize that we're all actually the same. And I think right now, Africa needs a message of unity. Africa needs a message of being together. Africa needs a message of being one. So the reason why I go by African Boy and I'm pushing this African narrative is to kind of show that all the differences that we think we do have are not really that different. It's pretty much one thing. And if we're together, then we can actually do more.
Let's talk about some of your major career highlights and milestones that you've achieved through your musical career.
Yeah, well, so right now, before I started Blank Space Records, I was part of Off Boys Records, and we had pretty much performed on every major stage in South Africa, from Opi Kopi to Durban July, to AKA's Orchestra, Times Square. And since I've become a solo artist and we started Blank Space Records, we've had a lot of opportunities for ourselves as a record label and for myself as an artist. I mean, right now, Moyo is sitting on more than 50,000 streams on YouTube. Deja Vu, my latest single, and African Boy 2 is on its way to more than 10,000 streams on Spotify. And I'm about to release African Boy 3, which is a trilogy. So African Boy 1, African Boy 2 in 2022, and now in 2023 we have African Boy 3 becoming the full roundup of the entire trilogy and the story.
Jeez, man, you're doing the most. You're absolutely doing the most.
Thank you
so
very
much for joining us, man.
No,
and how do your fans follow you?
My fans can find me on any social media platform. It's FakeAno, which is FakeAno, whether it's Twitter, Apple Music, or Spotify, or YouTube.
All the best, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cool stuff. Well, that's singer, rapper, and musician FakeAno, and he's been giving us a taste of his latest tunes.